I was just reading about AI, and it was from a tech head. That's what he writes about and blogs about. He was talking about how the utter failure of institutions to deal with COVID effectively really made him realize that maybe, we do have to really doubt certain things about whether institutions will actually be incentivized ever to have sort of the highest quality assurance around AI. Now, those of us on the dark right, we immediately say no because humans are bad. Humans are bad, and we need guidance and chastisement and generations to become better, and hopefully discipline sets in, and that it becomes something that is rewarding to the psyche to be disciplined and to do things that constantly sort of self-correct a person in life. Like Marcus Aurelius would have his own way of putting it. Well, or the Hagakure might have its own way of putting it. But something I was starting to think about was that I started to think, well, now it does have to be asked really on the Democratic Party side and the leftists. Well, do you have any reason now to give government more power? Think about it. Really, Democrats, do you have any good argument to give the state more power at this stage? You're already seeing what you don't like. But now, when you had all the cards, you fumbled you ruined the whole game. You fumbled it. You spoiled your own soup. So, do you want more government authority? Do you want the government to be able to have more instantaneous say and kind of do? Do you really want a state that can kind of make you diddy mouth? Because you've seen what's happened now that it's no longer in your hands. I really wonder this with somebody like Hassan Piker and that end of the left, or Destiny, that he clearly wants a coercive state. He's said it. He's talked about, dude, yes. Living life to its fullest. And he's said that he would actually not have a problem knowing his family was executed for their political views. So he's already out there. He's out. He's already digging the graves for his family by his own mouth. He said it. So, what then do we really? What kind of government really does he want? Right now, a medical meth head cocksucker, chemsex little, lollipop guild leader. He can say all kinds of stuff. He could apparently get away with all kinds of recording people when he's not supposed to. This seems like, nothing takes down the left, really. Really. Where are we seeing the perp walking, going on? There's a little bit here and there. A city council person here, a judge there. Most of this it doesn't really make it through the news very well. I like that. It doesn't make it through the news very well. That's good. It's a great way of thinking about it. But really, I'm sitting back at this stage, because the right is already whoa, okay. Okay, German shepherds are just running around, all right. But they didn't run toward that other dog, so I guess they're getting the stick. They got the stick. That's great. Yeah. See, there's still good things in this world. See, get to stay. So, um, at this point, like with somebody like the Democratic Socialists now, Mom Donnie and his bunch, and like what now there should be government power so that they could like apparently seize property because they just don't like how it's being used anymore. They just don't like it. All my neighbors have decided they don't like how it's being used. So now they get to decide how it will be used. That's where we're at. That's where the biggest, supposedly the biggest big deal city in America, that's where it's at. The right wing is more than willing to watch it fail. We're more than willing to watch fucking New York fail, go into a long spiral. It's happened before. It's had its down times. It's happened before. The West Coast is actually facing its first big because I don't know of anything that really made people leave the West Coast in massive numbers within less than a decade. Like the fact that it's been less than a decade, the numbers that major cities have lost and then the states have lost themselves, big deal. And then it's the employers. That so many employers are leaving. As I'm got to make sure to upload the one from this morning that millionaires they're hemorrhaging the millionaire like employer class of the tech industry now from California, and and so they've got their problems. They've definitely got their problems, and it's looking like one of the big things about this too. If I was one of these people who I left California with all my money, which I did in a sense, but not really. But I would be waiting for their bills to come due, and for them to have to sell the fucking state on discount. Same thing with Oregon. And now the beauty is, these big companies, they've been banned from buying houses. That doesn't keep them from buying what were once public properties to make into commercial properties and such like. See, this is almost literally one of the things I had brought up a long time ago. I said Antifa, eventually what this will mean is that Portland will you haven't done anything to improve Portland. Antifa doesn't improve anything. BLM never improved anything. This movement of Marxist lesbians and academics and white academics. And now there's that too. Now there's openly the question, what is wrong with white women? Like, what's wrong with black people generally? Why are we allowing Muslims in when all you've got to do is know almost anything about Islam to know why you shouldn't let them in? And then the next is what's wrong with liberal white women, and should there be a way of filtering them out of important positions? Because now more and more people are starting to compare notes. I'm actually seeing things on the internet that people especially the younger, like millennials and Gen Zers, they're the ones who now they're really clearly identifying these older white liberal women and situations that they're like saying like, no, these bitches fucking screw up everything. Everything's working fine, and they come in and suddenly there's some kind of problem that has to be solved. There was actually the term a professional problem solver or a professional clipboard comes from a woman who was literally kind of the quintessential crazy pixie girl Crazy Pixie Dream Girl, I think is the term. Yeah, Pixie Dream Girl. And was always fucking things up. And you couldn't even believe it. Like, you couldn't believe, like, she finally is now dating that dude. Okay. Like, this is the dude, like, his name was, like, Spencer Hawthorne, or you know, I mean, just, it was one of those kind of, just this name that was impossible, 6'2", this mane of, he looked like dark-haired Morrissey with more muscle, in a way. Had that whole look, had even the dress down, just cool as hell, just a cool guy. And he was dating this one, and he dated the Crazy Pixie Girl. And at a certain point, I'm like, so whatever happened to them? And somebody who always, the woman who always, Crazy Pixie Girl, always ends up, you know, showing up to ruin her life. That chick was like, oh yeah, they're in couples counseling. I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, there is no way he needs couple counseling. And let me just, I could guarantee that one. There's no fucking way. And, but eventually he got married. I think I saw her still bouncing around with guys, and yeah, Crazy Pixie Girl. And at a certain point, there was even the point to which Crazy Pixie Girl, I mean, just all these things that she would do that were like these quintessential weirdo millennial art chick things. And then I remember one time she like did this big art piece, and this person who was a relatively well-known artist in the area, just like, he criticized it on the basis of like just artistic, the qualities of the work. And she was furious. You could tell she was just furious that her genius wasn't recognized by this man who is only really well known in the field, and is still doing it. He's still at it. You know, he's still making artwork and getting paid for it. Crazy Pixie Girl. You know, all I know is I saw her bouncing around with some guy smoking a cigarette one day. That's about it. That's where they go. That's where they end up. So it's, do we need to be governed by that? An institution that makes sure to hire people like that? Which that's the other issue that this all came down to was, you know, we have this whole, the government just hires like all these incompetent people and quasi-competent people, you know, and you know, all these now jobs have safety, like a safety council or something, you know, because of the COVID. After the COVID, we made a safety council in case anything like that ever happened again. So like literally the least qualified people who have the least understanding of the great, or at least the most concerned but the least understanding, great, you know. And hey, whatever. That's why men have abandoned society, because we literally are sitting there going, you all are fucking, you're idiots. Men are abandoning society because in too many cases we're seeing the collective power of too many people, especially once the liberals and the white liberal women, the awfuls, show up. The Senator Warrens, the various types of harridans, they show up, and what do you got to do? Now a good idea has to get flushed down the toilet. Let's take all the things that are effective protocols that this man over here is pointing out. No, really, in this situation, you see, and blah blah blah, because back in, you know, that you know, I you know, took this course, and this was what they advised. I mean, but you know, I mean, I'm willing, I'm open to hear, you know, and I, the harridan, have this to say. I understand you, but the conversation we should be having here, the conversation, the dialogue. Remember, this keeps happening. Various words like this, where what it really is no, the framing of the argument should be this. That's what that means. No, they're like, oh yeah, Destiny wants to have the conversation. Come on, Asmongold, come on here and let's have the conversation. Oh no, come on, Destiny. Why don't you just frame the argument in a way that makes Asmongold look bad and have him defend himself? And it's like, no, why should Asmongold defend himself from this person who's an idiot, who shouldn't have power over anybody? Who's a defective and a diminutive, and a chemsex loser. It's like, why should he deal with that? Why should any of us? Why should we be answering to motherfuckers like that? And so, do you want to give the government more power so you have to answer to diminutive lollipop guild member dumbasses who botch it? And then if it does work the way you want, you get to crush your enemies. Then, do you want the government to have so much power that when it's reversed on you, like a lot of you argue that it has been, well, how do you like it now, motherfuckers? How do you like me now? Oh, damn. So, I just have been getting more and more curious about this idea. How much power do you really want the state to have now that you're feeling a partial, just a sample of the power of the Death Star? How does it feel to hear about Alderaan? And be like, next they're coming for us too. Squee. Now, one of the best parts about this is the pretense of the transgenocide. That this is solidly one of these things that Milo Yiannopoulos recently nailed it on Tucker Carlson. I'm so glad he said this, because when you're around it enough, you do end up kind of being like, no, clearly epigenetics is a thing. Because, you kind of are sitting there going, with a mom like that, your son's going to be as gay as a picnic basket. And then when it happens, you don't want to say like, dang, I told me so. Because you don't, that's... But Milo finally brought it up, and this is a thing that goes back a long way, this is a real thing that does go back, about 2 generations, that this idea of, no, the reason why your kids are queer is because your mama. And I'm not kidding. Now, there's also, you see that what ended up happening was that people started to say, well, that's not necessarily so. Come on, that can't be really necessarily so, And then, of course, now we have the Human Genome Project. We find out there's nothing genetic about it. The geneticists and the genomists, they're pointing out, they're going, I'm sorry, it's either a feature or it's a bug when it's the human genome, that's and it's not a feature. And so this idea that maybe it was your mama is, Milo might not be far off with that. And yeah. And so it's just kind of now this thing that a lot of, that's this, I think, an unsaid part of, when you see the mom with the son who just looks like he's never had any hope, and, this poor bastard, this is a poor bastard, you really are on some wow, this kid just never had a chance, and not even that it was he had nothing to eat, he had no shoes on his feet. No, he just likes wearing slides because his feet are really fat. He's really overweight, and he's this kind of this big dumpy lard bottom with this fat white liberal lady, you know, and you see this so much, and that you're looking at the guy and you're like, I don't know what exactly is wrong with this dude, but there's something clearly wrong with him. And yeah, something's clearly wrong with homie. And and we're now at this stage of, yeah, we got to discuss the awfuls, because apparently they'll suicide themselves to try to do whatever it is that awfuls do, you know. Yeah, they'll run themselves into a cop's bullets. They'll leap at his gun, you know. So it's like they've already voted to destroy everything. They've destroyed all art and entertainment. They've destroyed education. They're overwhelmingly the people hired in education. I mean, like, we're really getting this point, and that people really, what it is that destiny is their defender. Not even Hassan. Hassan probably, with this, he would have some way that he would have to dodge the argument over and over again about how it's so dumb because it's like this way of taking the patriarchy and you know. But, you know, he would have to deal with the fact that at some point, I bet off the cuff, I bet he quite agrees. I bet he says it. I bet he says stuff like this off the cuff now and then. And so those were the two things I was just thinking about. But most importantly was, like, now that the shoe's on the other foot, do you want to keep giving the government power? You've given me power. I warned everybody, don't give me power, and now I've got it. And how does it feel? And you handed it to me. Like, you actually handed the power over to me. I'm like, it's pretty, I mean, it's fun. I'm having a blast. Like, I mean, yeah, like Jumping Jack Flash, it's a gas to have this much power to kind of make the future what I wish. But yeah, I don't think you guys want the expansion of it. I'm just kind of doubting it now. So yeah, let's see how far this goes, gentlemen. All right, later.